So I had switchgrass, a biofuel of the future. What is switchgrass? Switchgrass is a very common grass found in eastern regions, Canada, all the way down to certain parts of Mexico. It's unique because its biodiversity is a lot different from other plants, in that it can get up to either 2 feet tall or 8 feet tall, depending on where you are. If you're near the equator, it's more likely to be taller because it's warmer. And yeah, it can go all the way down to Mexico. It usually has purple flowers, but in the fall, it can it turns yellow with like brown seeds. Shown here. So this is in the fall where it's yellow and it has brown seeds. In the spring, it's green with purple flowers. How's it grown? Switchgrass is usually grown in low nutrient soil regions, which makes it a lot better for farmers and a lot cheaper because not much else can grow there. Um, it doesn't need a lot of water either, so that's also a pretty cool thing. After planting, the soil should be compacted and watered down in order to prevent erosion. They have pretty deep roots, which prevent that, but in the first year, just to kind of establish them, it should be compacted. Um, but they're perennials, so they don't even have to be reseeded or anything for another 10 years. And um, yeah, but it is required that you put some nitrogen in the soil just to maintain like consistency. This is the harvesting of some switchgrass. As you can see, it's green here. So it's probably during springtime and harvesting season. How is biofuel produced from switchgrass? Biofuel can be produced from switchgrass by processes, being thermochemical conversion and biochemical conversion. Biochemical conversion is probably the more effective one, but since it is a cellulosic feedstock, it is more difficult to be broken down to a fermentable sugar rather than a starch. It has to be pre-treated to make it more manageable sugar. It goes to enzyme production, and after the enzymes have been produced, usually by yeast, glucose fermentation occurs and produces ethanol. Developmental status on switchgrass is that it's pretty recent, like relatively up and coming. And it's inexpensive and easy to grow with low maintenance, and it can really grow anywhere, warm and dry. So I think it makes it a really strong candidate for leading biofuel. So these are, this is switchgrass. This is probably during the summer. It's green, but you can see it's starting to brown up a little bit right before fall. How does switchgrass affect the carbon footprint? It's actually a pretty decent plant, and according to carbon uh, emissions, the carbon emissions go down to the ground rather than into the atmosphere, which make it better. But with global warming, the carbon it's kind of mitigating the effect now. So it's pretty much neutral, but you could classify as a carbon decreasing plant. Economics of switchgrass, in terms of money spent, since 2006, $100 million has been spent towards switchgrass and biofuel. I think the reason why it has been more is because corn is actually considered a more effective biofuel in that it can produce 400 liters uh, per ton rather than 360. But switchgrass is half the cost of corn, so I think it's actually more cost efficient. This is kind of a cartoon of European biofuels actually taking up more space than their actual crops. And so they're having a food shortage because they're planting all these crops for biofuels rather than food. So this is what they got in this picture. Propagating of switchgrass in the public. George Bush actually gave a State of the Union address in 2006 addressing for the U.S. to look to more research in the switchgrass as a biofuel alternative. Um, it that was probably the biggest like, advertisement it got, um, but it like a lot of companies are starting to go towards the clean energy concept, and I think that's probably like the second biggest advertisement for it. My current analysis is it's definitely a smarter alternative to fossil fuels. It's cost effective as well. Honestly, I don't know why it's not more adopted. Um, it's probably because of the electrical, uh, breakthroughs and everything becoming electrical. But I think it definitely has a chance. This is kind of like the looking after switchgrass, botanist or marine biologist. Not quite sure, but most likely scientists. Proposing a plan. If I were to propose a plan, I would hire a team of biologists, microbiologists, and botanists in order to graft a switchgrass plant that would produce uh, the maximum amount of ethanol under various conditions by modifying the DNA within the grass to make it less dependent on chemicals and pesticides to further reduce the cost it would take to grow switchgrass. I would then plan to lease as much land as possible in which conditions were favorable to growing switchgrass. After that, I would propose like meeting up with the board of directors for like some big time fuel companies and like saying, this is how you compete with the upcoming, you know, electric energy wave, uh, proposing that this is how you compete with that by using biofuels rather than fossil fuels and using my citations. And yeah, that's it.